Hello and welcome to another Bukkit teacher tutorial. This time I'm going to show you how to set up your permissions, specifically PermissionsEx. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to install and use PermissionsEx. Later on in more tutorials I'll be showing how to use B permissions, Bukkit permissions, and any other permissions that you guys would want to see how to set up. Like I said in the last tutorial, PermissionsEx is my preferred permissions plugin due to some certain features that it comes with and easy to use. Some people might say this permissions plugin is a little bit more complicated than others, and it is, but I think it's for a little bit more advanced people also. But beginners can easily hop on and figure it out how to use it. So you're gonna want to open, to start off we're gonna want to open our Bukkit server folder, and you'll have all your files in here. You're gonna want to click on the plugins folder, and then you want to click on PermissionsEx folder, and you'll see two files in here, the config file and the permissions file. Let's go ahead and check out the config file just for a second. I don't know why I dragged it out there. Alright, just go ahead and double click on the config file. And that brings me to another point. Your editing program. As you can see, I use Notepad++. I find it the easiest to use, and you can easily find your errors that you accidentally make. I would not suggest regular Notepad that just comes off Windows, because then it's hard to find your errors that you've made, because since permissions files are in .yml format, you can see that at the top. That means they have certain spacing. They don't have tabs. So if I go all the way back, that's all spacing, no tabs. You can't use tabs in .yml format. So it's easier if you use a program like Notepad++ or Notepad 2 or any other text editor that detects errors in file formats. So I would suggest downloading Notepad++ if you don't have it for this tutorial. So here's the config file for PermissionsEx. The only parts you really need to worry about is if you want debug. This will send you messages through the console telling you the errors that are happening, if there are any. I usually leave that false unless there's something wrong. Then allow ops allows you to allow the ops to have permissions too. So that's it in the config. Really, you don't really need to mess with anything else unless you're more advanced and know what this stuff does. I wouldn't touch it. So let's just go ahead and exit out of the config file. No, we do not want to save it since we didn't change anything. Now let's head on over into the permissions file. This is where you're going to find all your permissions. It'll probably get a lot longer by the time we are done with this tutorial. So I'm going to be making two tutorials, a basic tutorial on setting up permissions and a more advanced tutorial. So today I'm going to make the basic tutorial just to get the simple layout out, and then the advanced tutorial I'll be showing you more details, more features of PermissionsEx. But for now we're just going to stick with the basic stuff, and let's get started. So there's two sections to your permissions file. You got your group section and you got your user section, which you cannot see because it will be generated once you add users through the console or by yourself. So I'm just going to add it so you guys can see it, so you guys don't get confused. That's what it'll usually look like, and you'll have, this would be a Minecraft username right here, and then you put Apache Killer, and then you go groups, and then you'd put admin or mod or whatever your rank wants to be. But you don't ever have to fill any of this out because it will automatically do that for you in game or through the console or whatever you use, whatever you want to use. Or you can do it through the permissions file if you don't have access to the console or whatever else that you guys use. So I'm just going to leave that blank, and you can leave the users there if you want. We can mess with that later. So the next part, now you got your groups, and you got your users. Now below groups, you'll see it says default. This is the first rank name. So let's go ahead and rename default to guest. So now our first rank is guest. And what this label means, right below guest, it says default. And that means when it's asking you, is this the default group? What default group means is when a person first joins your server, is this the group you want it to be? And we're gonna keep that as true. And if it's false, then it's not the default. And if there's more than 2 default groups, it will go to the lowest rank first. And I'll explain more about that later. And then you'll see the permissions label. And under the permissions label, you'll see permissions. Well, you only see one right now, and that's modify world. But there will be more later once we add some. So, and there's more labels. They're just not showing you. So I'm going to show them to you right now. One of them that's pretty important to servers is probably prefix. Now this will allow you to add a prefix before the Minecraft username. And to get this to work, you need to have 2 apostrophes, and then you want to put your prefix inside here. So I'm going to go ahead and type guest, and that's your prefix. Now what this will look like in game when somebody talks, it'll show up a little bit like this: guest, Apache killer, hi. That's if someone says hi, that's what their prefix will look like in game, and obviously it'll adjust according to their rank. And I don't use this label very much, but some of you might. It's called suffix, and this will just go to the end of the name. So let me show you an example. Suffix. And now when someone types hi, it'll look like this. That's what it'll look like. So if you want a suffix, you can go ahead and do that, but I don't really like suffixes, so if you want one, you can go ahead and add one, but for now, I'm not going to. Also, these brackets right here, you do not need them for a prefix. I just like them because it separates the name from the rank, and you can easily identify which one is which. So I like the brackets. You can put parentheses if you'd like, that look better. You can do anything basically. Put an equal sign so you can tell what the rank is. But I'm just going to leave mine at brackets. You can go ahead and choose whatever you like. Alright. So there we got our default label set, we got our prefix label set, suffix label we're leaving empty, and permissions. I'm going to go ahead, I was going to save this for advanced users, but I'm just going to go ahead and do this, set this up. I probably won't explain much about it. But options. This can be used by other plugins also, but it's mainly used for the rank label. Just go ahead and put 300 in this. The rank label basically states what rank has the most power and what rank doesn't. The higher the rank number, the lower the power they have. I know it does make sense. It seems like it's backwards. I thought that was kind of strange too, but the higher the rank, and you'll see as we go on, the number decreases. So that's your all. Those are all your main labels. There's actually one more. Actually, let me show you this one. Inheritance. This label will allow you to inherit all the permissions of another rank. This is very handy, so you don't have to type all the permissions from one rank to another, and this will save you a lot of time, and it will keep your permissions file very clean looking, so you can easily go back and modify it if you would like. Guest, we're not going to inherit anything, so we're just going to leave that blank. So now to the fun part, adding permissions. These right here with a dash in front of it, this is called a permission node. And permission node lets the server know what this rank can do, what they can place, what commands they can do, what worlds they're allowed in, and everything else. So let's go ahead and change this. Before we change this star right here, it means they have access to all modify world commands and abilities. So if you don't want to type out every single modify world permission, like sneak, modify world sprint, if you just want them to have all these, and there's more, if you just want them to have all these permissions, you can just put this star right here, and it will give them all the modified world permissions. So this is handy for your mods or admins. You probably don't want to give all the permissions to a guest because they might grief or ruin your server somehow. So we're going to give the guest just the chat, modify world.chat, and this will let them on your server only let them chat. They will not be able to build. They will not be able to use any other commands except chat. So let's make another group. Let's call this one members, or just member. And to save some time, let's copy all this except the guest right here. All that good stuff right there in the middle. And we do not need this default because the guest is already default, so just go ahead and delete the default label, and now you got your prefix, suffix, options, permissions, and inheritance. And we do not want the prefix of a member to be guest, so let's go ahead and change that to member. So now we have a member prefix. Also, we want to change the rank to a lower number, meaning that this member is a higher rank than guest. That's what that number means. I usually leave it in the hundreds. So now we want to, we don't want to keep typing all these permissions out for every single group. So we're going to inherit the guest group. So to inherit, you just type, kind of like a permission node, just type guest with a dash in front of it and a space. And that will it'll inherit all the permissions of guest, so you don't have to type this again. But we are going to add some more modify world permissions. Let's see, what else can we add? We're going to allow members to, how about we let them destroy blocks. Blocks.destroy. Alright, so this is a permission node. Modify world is the name of the plugin. Blocks is the type of interaction, and then destroy is the interaction. And this star means they can destroy any block. You can specify like what block they can destroy, and then if you type stone, this will only let them destroy stone. But we're going to go ahead and let them destroy whatever they want. And let's add another permission node, modify world.blocks.create. Now this will let them create any block, place any block, basically. Oh, I'm not sure why I put create. It should be place, and that will let them place any blocks. So let's move on to another rank. We're gonna name this one VIP. So your very important people will have special commands. So let's copy this again and go ahead and paste this. Now for an inheritance, let's change that first. We want to put member this time. So inheritance inherits all the stuff member has. So when it inherits members, it will inherit the guest too, because member inherits guest. So VIP gets all of the member commands, all the member permissions, and all the guest permissions. And let's change the rank to 100. Now 1,000. And let's change this to VIP, so it says VIP next to their name when they say something. And we don't need these permissions because we are inheriting them. So let's give them modify world dot here we go, vehicle dot star. This will give them all the vehicle permissions. The vehicle permissions gives them the ability to destroy a vehicle, ability to enter, and ability to collide with a vehicle. This means that the vehicles are boats, minecarts. I think that's all the vehicles in Minecraft right now. So this will allow them to create them, destroy them, and collide with them. So they get that. Now, let's add an admin group. So we're going to give them everything. So they're the ruler of the server. So let's copy that of VIP, paste this, and let's change their prefix to admin. And admins, you always want your admins to be 0. So that means they're at the top. They're the highest, and you can't go any higher than them. And let's change the inheritance to well, actually, we don't need an inheritance for VIP, or I mean for admin. I'll show you why here in a second. So now permissions. Most of the time, you want to give your admins every command so they can modify the server however they'd like. So to do this, to give the admin every command, every ability on the server, you want to put apostrophe star apostrophe, and this will give them every single command and ability available on the server. So that means you don't need an inheritance because they'll already have all this stuff above, as you can see. So that's about it for setting up your permissions file. But I'm going to show you one more thing that I forgot to go over. So I didn't really explain the spacing format very well, as you probably know. So if I press enter, it'll take me right below inheritance. And say I want to add guest, it'll show up red. That means you have tabs somewhere in this line. You have tabs, and you cannot have tabs in a .yml format. And if you go over next to guest and you press back, you'll notice that there's a tab right there and another tab. To make it not red, backspace all the way to the border and keep pressing enter until you get below inheritance, and then it will not be red anymore. If you have any red in your permissions file, your permissions file will not work, and you'll just inherit the op permissions. So that's about it for this permissions tutorial, and I'll be going through in my advanced tutorial how to add specific permissions to worlds and some more advanced permission nodes later in my next tutorial. So I hope this helped. Also, if you guys want this permissions file, this is just a basic permissions file. I'll go ahead and put a link to it and and not in the comments, but the description. I'll go ahead and put a link to this permissions file so you can download it and go ahead and edit it as you like. So I hope this helped you out with your permissions, and watch the next advanced tutorial and you'll learn a lot more. Thank you.